Good morning, everybody. How's it going this fine Tuesday? We got more Seahawks stuff to talk about, and in this video, we will once again not be talking about news or analysis or predictions or anything like that. We're going to be setting the stage for a recurring video series for the remainder of the 2021 year, and possibly, hopefully, on into January. We are going to be setting up a weekly Tuesday morning video until the Seahawks don't have any more games to play. Yesterday, we talked about snap counts. Pretty self-explanatory there. I basically would keep track of every player's snap count or relevant player snap counts in each game. We would see who was playing too much, who isn't playing enough, who is getting squeezed on playing time, who is getting new playing time, things like that. Pretty self-explanatory there. So today's about Tuesday. What are we going to be doing on Tuesdays after Seahawks games? We're going to be taking a look at the performance of the front office, and we're going to be taking a look at a specific slice of the front office's performance, because if you want to evaluate how good a front office is doing in general, it's actually pretty easy. You look at a team's record and their point differential, right? You look at whether or not they're making the playoffs. You look at whether or not they're winning playoff games. At the end of the day, the front office's performance determines whether or not the team is good or bad. So that's pretty simple. If the team is good, then the front office is doing the right things on the whole, and if they're not, they're not. Now, this video series is going to be specifically looking at the performance of the front office in the most recent offseason. Because while the front office has been improving a little bit in some areas the last few off seasons, there's a pretty clear divide with this franchise's decision making in that regard. The divide was really in 2013, where from 2010 to 2012, it felt like they could do no wrong. They made great draft picks. They got the right players in. They made good free agency signings. They got the right staff, and they made Super Bowl runs. Once that era was set in stone. And then you had the front office's decision making from 2013 on to wherever you think the stopping point is, where the drafts were bad, a lot of the decisions they made with players were bad, and things started to slip away as the years went by. So the front office, it feels like, is maybe headed in the right direction. We're not where we were in 2010, 2011, 2012 in terms of these drafts, not at all. In fact, I think I've been negative on our draft picks as much, if not more, than I've been positive on our draft picks, even as recently as a couple of years ago. We're still making very questionable first round and often even second round picks. The players that we bring in, it's a mixed bag. We're not knocking it out of the park, but I can't say that we're a disaster either. And whether or not this front office has gotten themselves out of the hole that they were in for several years after that really good run is up for debate. And if they have, where exactly that switch started to get flicked is also up for debate. So regardless of all that, whatever you may think, if you think the 2020 offseason was good, if you think the 2019 offseason was good, if you think this front office turned things around in 2018, 2019, 2020, or if you think they haven't turned it around at all, whatever it may be, this video series is going to be all about looking at the decisions made last offseason, this most recent offseason. So we're going to keep track of a certain list of players on this team specifically. And by the end of the season, based off how they do, we should have a pretty good idea of whether or not the front office made the right decisions. So there are three categories here. We have free agent re-signings, where you have the players that the team had last year that they decided to keep this year. Now, I left a few players out, but the Ryan Neals and Brian Monets of the world, those are no-brainers, and they cost basically nothing. There's no decision to make there. There's nothing to be said about keeping Ryan Neal for a 1-year minimum contract. There's nothing to be said about keeping Monet on a 1-year minimum contract. It's something that you do because of course you do it, because of course you do it. So no analysis needed for those guys, but we do need analysis on a handful of players we decided to bring back. We also have free agency signings / trades. These are players that we acquired, and we need to judge how they're doing. They're going to be a big part of the puzzle on whether or not this front office is doing the right things or not. And finally, of course, we have draft picks / undrafted rookie free agents. Not a whole heck of a lot of those this year, but their performance this year is also a significant piece of the puzzle on whether or not this team is starting to figure things out. So the players that I actually did list here, and there will definitely be an opportunity to add a player or two to this list as the season goes on, but you got Chris Carson. Now, I don't think you can go that wrong with giving Chris Carson the contract that we gave him. The contract that we gave him is very reasonable, and very few Seahawks fans have anything negative to say about it. However, he still needs to perform, or else you should have just gotten somebody else, right? At the end of the day, Carson's going to be the starting running back, and if he's a round peg going into a square hole in this offense, that's not a good reflection of the front office, because we knew Waldron was here before we signed Carson. You have Alex Collins, who, granted, it's not a huge deal because it's a small contract that he's on. I think it's basically a 1-year veteran minimum. But we still decided to bring him back, and he is going to play an important role this year because we know Carson, with his injury problems, you know that a guy like an Alex Collins is going to get on the field. So if and when that happens, if he's not good, then you have to revisit the decision-making to bring him in. You have Ethan Posick, and this is one of the biggest ones, obviously, because signing Ethan Posick is a big part of the reason why you didn't draft Creed Humphrey, why you didn't sign Corey Linsley. Well, maybe not Corey Linsley because he signed for so much money, but you didn't sign Ted Karras. You didn't sign Matt Skura. You didn't sign Nick Martin. So the Posick thing can help or hurt yourself kind of double. It's almost like being in double jeopardy, because not if Posick is bad, not only does that suck for this team, but it also sucks in terms of the guy you could have had but didn't get because you got Posick. Poona Ford, I think a lot of us, most of us around here appreciate Poona and they know what he does, but he got a reasonably sized contract, not as much as I thought he was going to get, but we gave him some money, so there will definitely be an expectation of him becoming a full-time #1 defensive tackle on this team and getting it done against the run and against the pass. I think we need to see him become a true dual-threat defensive tackle this year, which he started to do last year. You have Mayowa, who we cut and then brought back, and the deal is very reasonable, but it's still a chunk of money, and if Dunlap goes out there this year and looks washed up, then swing and a miss, and that's a very costly swing and a miss because we're betting so much on the pass rush this year. And on that note, you also have Benson Mayowa, who I don't know if we would do that signing again if we got a second chance at it, because there aren't a lot of snaps to go around. So our ability to find something for Benson Mayowa to do is going to be one of the interesting subplots to watch this year for me. For the free agency signings and trade acquisitions, you have Gerald Everett. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. He's the new #1 tight end in an offense that should work to his strengths. So you expect Gerald Everett to have a good season. Gabe Jackson, it's a pretty big deal that he plays in almost every game this year and plays well. We bet a lot on him in terms of the future of this offense, and he was the major acquisition to assuage Wilson's concerns about getting hit too much. Al Woods, we ended up paying Al Woods a little more than I think we needed to, which is not a huge deal, but we paid him enough to where I expect him to play a decent amount of the snaps and play well when he's out there. So we need Al Woods to be an effective run stuffer. His impact will be more felt by the overall performance of the team rather than any stats he puts up, but he does need to play effectively. Kerry Hyder, very important pickup for the defensive line. He's going to probably start at 5-tech. He's going to be key against the run and the pass. I added a couple guys in the last couple of weeks. You have Blessuan Austin and you have Sidney Jones, 2 corners that we added in basically the last week. So I don't know when they're going to get on the field, but I feel like they will. And given the fact that we're scrambling at cornerback right now with the Witherspoon trade and the acquisition of 3 guys who have a chance to play this year, these guys plus Nigel Warrior, who I may end up rolling into this list eventually as well, you got to believe they're going to get a chance, and it's going to be important that they make good on that chance. And then, of course, finally, draft picks. We know who these guys are, right? Dwayne Eskridge is going to be the number 3 receiver. He's going to get a lot of chances to prove his value this year. Got to do something good with it. You got Trey Brown. I don't know when his opportunity is going to come up, but I feel like it will, especially on this team. And it's definitely a little uncomfortable to think about him playing a significant role on this team right now. So to a certain degree, he has a lot to prove, and he, to a certain extent, has to prove me wrong. I don't dislike Trey Brown, but I'm dubious of his ability to play well in his rookie season. Now, Stone Forsythe and Jake Curhan, I don't know how much they're going to play. They might not play at all. Honestly, hopefully they don't. But if their number gets called at some point this season, they need to provide competent play. They need to go out there and look like they belong on an NFL field. Maybe they only play in garbage time, and if so, great, but I want to see them do something good in garbage time. And then we also have Cade Johnson, who I feel like will get on the field at some point because of the lack of depth at receiver for these Seahawks. And that's basically all we're going to be looking at. We're going to be evaluating them by their overall stats in certain areas. Like, obviously, these players play different positions. So what you might see in this spreadsheet as the year goes on is I highlight certain areas that prove that they're playing well. And if need be, I would also highlight some numbers that indicate they're not playing so well. And we'll try to give some sort of grade on how good these guys are playing, trying to remain as objective as possible. And from that, we can kind of determine whether or not the front office was able to hit on most of these decisions. And that's what you can be looking forward to on Tuesday on this channel for the rest of the year. I'm going to get out of here. Peace out. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think down below. How do you feel about this front office? Go ahead and sound off on that as well. Have we bounced back from the struggles of the post-2012 offseason? Or are we still in that hole? See you guys later.